Hello, welcome back to Sharks Happen. My name is Hal, your host, going over shark attacks from the 1900s to present, mostly large sharks, and we're going to get started right away. We're going to go over to Bird Island, Algoa Bay, South Africa. The date, May 30th, 1959. Tony Dix, 23-year-old. He's spearfishing with a buddy. He's down, they're trying to spearfish for yellowtail when suddenly a white shark starts circling him. He shoots the shark with the spear, and the shark kind of is a little pissed off, goes a little ways away and turns around and comes back at him. He takes his spear gun now, and he's keeping the shark away from him with the spear gun in its mouth. It eventually bites the spear gun and gets the spear gun away from him, so he pushes himself away from the snout of the shark and goes and grabs it from behind the gills. And at that time, his friend shot the shark with his spear gun and killed the shark. No injury to the case. He didn't get injured at all. But this is down in where I get my attack information. They call this a provoked attack. I'd hate to call something a provoked attack. How do you know what that shark was doing to the guy? I can't call that a provoked attack unless I know what the shark was doing. And what do you want him to do? Wait till he's bit to shoot the thing? So another issue I have with these experts and the things they say, they just throw out common sense and they just say that you provoked the shark. So I don't call it provoked. I call it, I don't even know if the shark would have attacked if he wouldn't have been shot. But, we'll never know. So that's our story of him, and we're going to move on. Okay, now we're going to head over off the coast of Florida, USA, off of Brevard County. There's Melbourne. The date is June 20th, 1934. Richard Clark Best Jr., 8 years old, standing in chest-deep water, so real close to the shore. He suddenly screams out. His father runs over and lifts him up out of the water, and water is just gushing out of the bite marks that were made to his body. They don't get into where the bite was, probably the legs, but he was bleeding pretty good when he lifted him up out of the water, and he did not survive. He passed away from his wounds. They don't say what kind of shark, but I would, put my money on a bull shark on that one. Not many details. These older ones from 1934 don't have a lot of details. Like when we get into these newer ones, we'll have a lot more to cover. So that's our story of Richard Clark Best Jr., 8 years old, waist deep water, and sadly did not make it, and we will move on. Now we're going to head over to False Bay, South Africa. The date, October 27th, 1956. Graham Smith, 29 years old. He and a buddy are out, they're diving for sinkers. So they're going down to the bottom, picking up sinkers, and they have a net on a float up at the top that they're putting the sinkers in. Graham is at the top of the water. He's only in snorkel gear, so he's laying on top of the water looking down at what his buddy's doing down there. He's got scuba gear on, so he's able to stay down longer. So he's going down, his friend's going down, getting the sinkers and bringing them up, obviously. Graham's sitting there, and he says he turns and he looks, and a shark is coming at him, mouth wide open. And it's only a few feet away when he sees this, and he says all he could do was draw in his knees to his chest, and he kicked out, and he hit the shark's nose, and the shark, pissed off, went around, did a circle, and came back at him from the same direction. And this time he's sitting there, and he goes to kick out at the shark, and the shark's got his mouth open, foot goes in the mouth, and it gashes up his foot pretty good. His buddy, now his swim fins are gone, shark's still circling. His buddy grabs his swim fins and swims over, even with the shark there, hands him his swim fins. Graham doesn't put the swim fins on. He takes his snorkel tube out of his mouth, and they say he screamed at the shark, and the shark left. So weird way for a shark to leave. So maybe if you scream at a shark, it'll leave. I don't know, but I don't know that the shark was into eating him anyway. Got a taste of his foot, didn't bother him again. Definitely wanted to check out and see what he was. So I think that was a test bite. We will move on. Hello and welcome to Shark Bites, new segment of the show where we do a rapid fire on short stories that have little information, that cannot go into Hal's stats. So I'm allowed to read from the sheets, read only from the sheets, and say nothing else. So having said that, I'm going to give you my impression on mistaken identity bites. Hal likes to say that when people say mistaken identity, they're wrong a lot of the time. Well, I say they're all mistaken identity bites. I say ever since the 60s when Batman was in the ocean and they sent him a rescue helicopter and they dropped down this big long ladder, and now Batman's going up to the ladder and all of a sudden a rubber shark jumps and grabs him by the foot, and now Batman's hanging there and he's got the weight of him and the weight of this rubber shark, but not any rubber shark, this is a rubber great white shark. So this is a big rubber shark hanging from Batman's feet, and now he doesn't know what to do. He can't hang on much longer, so he pulls a bat trick and gets rid of him. Ever since then, every time a person is bit, the shark thinks he has Batman. Mistaken identity. Okay, attack number 1, July 10th, 1958. The incident took place in Key West, Florida, about 75 miles south of where I'm at right now. Angel B. Escarden, 35-year-old male. No details on the attack. All that they have is the injury. The coroner says that the victim was alive when he was bitten by a shark or barracuda. 1958. Sunday, February 7th, 1982. Kim Siebel. This attack takes place off Elliott Key, which is the northernmost real key there is, and it's the largest key north of Key Largo. Kim Siebel, 29 years old. He was going out diving, spearfishing with friends, and him and his companion entered the water, and shortly they were separated, and they did a search and they couldn't find him. They found his shredded dive trunks and his mask and his fins that had markings on them that they said was a possibility of a shark. So without the definite shark being listed or what kind or even knowing how large, we cannot use that information, which is why he has me read it. And our last attack, the date, 1952. Just 1952. You pick a date and time and month. The incident took place near Key West, again, 75 miles south of here. He was Pan American Airlines pilot. That's his name, because they don't have his name. It's an unknown name, and he was a Pan Am pilot. And he was wearing a fluorescent bathing suit, and no details on the attack. It says he was swimming, and it was fatal. He was struck in the groin by a shark, and in parentheses, or barracuda. Key West seems to have a big problem with barracuda down there, at least back in the 50s, and we will move on back to hell. Okay, now we're going to head over off the coast of San Diego, California to Imperial Beach. The date, October 8th, 1950. Robert Campbell, 30 years old. He and some friends are out doing some swimming. It's noon. They're about 150 yards from shore. It says 100 to 150 yards from shore. It doesn't say the depth. 4 of them are swimming. One of them's on an air mattress. They're all separated by about 15 feet. Suddenly, Robert Campbell feels a bump and then a weighted feeling, he says, to his leg. And he doesn't know what's going on, and he looks, and there's a shark coming at him on the surface. And he says when the shark grabbed him by the leg and lifted his leg up out of the water, because he could see blood everywhere in the shark's mouth when it did that. So now he's in the shark's mouth, and the shark's got him by the leg. He says the shark sat there for a second on his thigh until it mauled his leg all the way down to his foot. So it just chewed all the way down his leg, and then it left. They got him to shore. He needed over 150 stitches to take care of what it did to his leg. He went into shock. It almost passed away from the blood loss. So much blood loss that he went into shock, but he did eventually recover. So non-fatality, wasn't out to eat him. Bit the hell out of him though, so kind of a strange one. We will move on. Okay, now we're going to head over off the coast of Oregon, the USA, Bastendorf Beach, Coos Bay. The date is January 2nd, 1993. William Weaver, 29 years old. He and a friend, Dale Inskeep, they're out surfing. They're sitting on their paddle boards. It's about 4:30. They're 100 meters from shore. They're probably waiting on a wave, but they're sitting there. They're about five meters apart, so 15 feet apart, waiting on waves. And suddenly, William's surfboard is lifted up, and he's being pushed back. A great white grabbed the front of his board, and he said it hit like a train and just started pushing him backwards. So he got up onto the board on his knees and backed all the way to the back of the board. Because if you see the board, right around the top front, there's a chunk taken out of it. Decent sized chunk too, but not one where it was plain out. This shark was mouthing this board pretty good. So it grabs the board and it's pushing him back. He backs himself up. He says then the board gets lifted up on a 20-degree angle and the shark is underneath the board and it starts wobbling side to side on him. and suddenly the shark just submerges straight down into the water, and he goes flat onto the water. He says he's paddling now like a bat out of hell to get to this shore. He sees the shark surface off to the left of him, and it's taking a cutoff angle for him to get to the shore, coming right at him. He says it got within 3 meters, and it did this turn, such a fast turn that it kicked up 3-foot waves at him. So it came at him, and then it turned, kicked up all these waves, and the last thing he saw before the shark disappeared was it goes under his board. And he says as it swam under his board, he could see the eye rotate in the socket to watch him as he was going underneath him. Shark went away, no injury to the surfer. I don't even think it was trying to injure it. I think it's territorial. But they count it as an attack. I don't count these as attacks. They count biting a boat as an attack. I don't count as an attack. You know, it's territorial, and I think a lot of times that shark is grabbing those boards, it doesn't even care to grab the person. It's grabbing a board most of the time, and we'll get into that in later surfing stories. So that's our story. Dale Inskeep, for a little side note, he gets attacked 5 years later by a great white. I believe it's a great white. We're going to get into that one later too. So that's our story of William Weaver, 29 years old, not to be confused with Billy Weaver, who we covered earlier on in our series. We will move on. And now we head over to South Africa, to Port St. John's, Second Beach. The date is March 22nd, 2014. Frederick Birdstaller, he's 66 years old. He's in waist deep water. They don't say how far from shore. It's just before 3 o'clock. And somebody hears a scream. The witness says they looked and saw him lifted up out of the water as the shark bit him in the legs. He gets out. It was a one bite, so he says the next thing he saw was him trying to run away from the shark, and he fell down. So he turned to the shark to hit the shark, but the mouth was open, so it took his arm. So now he's without an arm. He's already been bit in the legs, and he's still trying to fight off this shark. Beachgoers are watching helplessly. They can't do nothing about it. They stopped having lifeguards there a while before, stopped paying for lifeguards. They have signs up warning swimmers against going in the water. He tries to get away some more. The shark bites him a little bit more. By the time they get out there and get his remains in, the whole lower half of his body is gone. And they say this was done from a 2-meter bull shark, so a 6-foot shark, 6.5 feet. Basically ate the lower half of this guy. The coroner said it was done by one shark, and you know, there was nothing anybody could do for him. It sounds like they didn't really go out to get him until the commotion stopped, but they don't really get into the survivors on that, to the rescuers. And that's our story on Frederick Birdstaller, 66 years old, waist deep water, consume, and we will move on. Hello, welcome to Quick Bites, segment of the show where we go over a few shark attack stories, have too little information to be able to use them in our stats, so Hal's going to let me read them. I'm supposed to just read these 3 stories and be on my way. So having said that, mistaken identity. It's very simple. It always happens when there's more than one person bit by the same shark. Shark bites first person, lets it go, bites second person. Now, until the shark bit the first person and had no clue that wasn't in fact the second person, and had he known that second person was not the first person, he'd have never bit the first person in the first place. Mistaken identity. Elemental P. Okay. This first case, Wednesday, April 15th, 1987. Kailua Kona, Hawaii. Daniel Kennedy is his name. He disappeared while swimming from the shore to an anchored boat. And they never found him, but they found his swim trunks bitten in half on the floor of the ocean. So, you know, it's pretty safe to say that he didn't make it. Presumed fatal. Don't know what size shark though. Probably very large. 1976. And you picked a day and time. Danson Nakami, this is in Lahaina, Maui, Hawaii. Daniel Nakami, he was diving for black coral when he was 180 feet deep, and he lost consciousness. And his attack was fatal, but they said shark involvement prior to death was highly unlikely. So they and I both think that he drowned. It's dangerous stuff when you deep diving like that. You get narcs, you get a lot of things that happen, and
You can even spaz out and attack other people that are trying to help you. You just get confused. It's a weird situation. It's like being in space, I guess. And then we'll finish off here Wednesday. Oh, you like my shirts? Found these shirts in the studio. I got me a shark shirt, and underneath I got a shark attack shirt. So if this shark bit me and I'm in the Florida Keys, I'll know where, and when I know where, I have numbers here, that's the depth. So I already have the depth and the area of where I was bit. I already did half of the work for them. Okay, last story, Wednesday, September 2nd. The accident took place in the Pacific Ocean, Kahala, Oahu. George Gasper, description, he was a male. He was swept out to sea while fishing, and they said it's fatal, but it was probably a drowning, but they did recover his remains in the stomach of a 5.5 meter shark, 18 footer. They don't say what kind. It's over in Hawaii, so you know I'm stereotypical with these sharks, so I'll say it's a tiger shark. And we're gonna move on and get back to Hal. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, we're going to finish out our attacks over in Perth, Australia. Cotslow Beach. The date is November 6, 2000. Ken Crew, 49 years old. He's with his pod of swimmers, so over a dozen people are out swimming. Ken Crew and Dirk Avery being two of them. And they're out at 6 in the morning for their swim. 6:30 in the morning, they're heading back in with Ken Crew and Dirk Avery in the front, heading back in because they're the strongest swimmers. Somebody suddenly yells, "Shark, get out of the water." And everybody's flocking to the water, and Dirk and Ken are in front of everybody, so they're closest to shore. This shark is heading straight for Ken Crew, the second closest person to shore. A woman up in a balcony sees the whole thing. She says this shark was massive. It was so big from dorsal fin to tail fin that, again, she thought it was more than one shark. It was so big. Probably it's a 5.9 meter or 4.9 meters, so only a 16 footer. I say only, but it must have been one of those massive 16 footers. And it comes up, turns sideways, and grabs onto Ken and pushes him through a wave, releasing Ken, heading straight now over towards Dirk, who's closest to shore in waist deep water, still running to get out of the water. It gets up to him, and it says it snaps at his legs a couple times, and Dirk takes and kicks at the shark to fend it off and gets his foot caught. He could get his foot and ankle all cut up in the shark. There's a bystander on the beach named John Sims. He runs in and fights this shark off of a complete stranger with Dirk. So Dirk and John Sims are able to fight the shark off from biting him anymore. He only ends up, I believe, with the foot, but we're going to deal with his attack later on. They finally get out to get the body of Ken Crew in, and he suffered massive wound to his leg. It just grabbed him and chomped him, and he lost. Lifesavers that brought him in said that he wasn't really bleeding on the way in, which means he lost almost all his blood out there in the water. He got to the beach. There was a priest there, read him his last rites, and that was the end of that. Nothing could be helped with that. We're not going to put Dirk Avery in the stats. We're going to take care of him on a second one. I want to see what the write-up on him is, and that's it for our attacks. That was in waist-deep water for Dirk. Probably standing water, you know, chest high, or maybe a little bit less for Ken Crew. I'll take a look and see if I can get a little bit better information on the actual depth of Ken Crew. But that's our attack. Fatality. Chomped him pretty good, but didn't want to eat him. And we'll move on. Well, anyway, it's been some kind of a show. I thought having a couple clowns in here would help do the show, seeing it was Halloween, but you know, the whole week has just been nuts. I got one asking the other one, where's the director? Hal shot him in the face. Take the shot. All this crap. So it's been rougher than I thought. They don't listen to direction. They don't care. So that's our show. I'm going to bring them back and we're going to say goodbye, but before I do, I'd like to tell you, the views of the clowns are in no way the views of myself or Sharks Happen. Thanks for watching.
And always remember, that water. When you're going in that water, you are much more afraid of those sharks
than they are of you.